Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic. It's Friday. You want to hear me talk about some comic books. And I have 5 comics to talk about this week. And it was a bit of a surprising week for me on my pull list. And not always for the good. Before I crack on with the reviews, a little bit of unrelated comic book news. You may have heard, if you've just watched Custom Brom Stars Get to Know a Comic Guy video, that some exciting things are happening for me in my real life. On Wednesday I went for a job interview for the place that I work currently. It was for a promotion within the company, and yesterday I found out that I got it. So I had to keep it all very quiet until everyone who'd applied for it had been told they hadn't. And today I was able to tell everybody. So I'm very excited about that. It obviously means a lot more work. I'm now a team manager. So it's not going to affect it here at all. I will not let it. Damn them. I have a life and I'm going to keep it. But that was my good news. Let's crack on with the comic books, because that's really what you'll come here for. And I'm going to start off with a comic that came out last week. Unfortunately, because my pull list was so huge, I couldn't afford to pick it up, so I asked them to put it aside for me. It's Night World, issue number 1 of 4. Now, I've said this before, and people who have been watching my videos will already know this, but just for people who are new here and just to reiterate this, when I make my comic book videos, I do my damnedest not to watch anybody else's here on YouTube until I've done mine. And it's really for 2 reasons. The first one is that, you know, I don't want to hear anyone else's opinions on the books I've read, because I know I'll be swayed by them, and will it affect my opinion. So I kind of steer away from them until I've made my video. The second reason is I want to see how closely or how far away my opinions are from everyone else. Now, obviously Night World came out last week, and I've pretty much caught up with everyone's videos, and I've heard a lot of people talk about Night World. The last being Sleepy Reader 666, and he said exactly what I was thinking as I was reading through this. I mean, this the co-creator of Paolo Leonori, clearly channeling the spirit of the king, Jack Kirby. I mean, the cover screams Jack Kirby, and inside it just shows more and more that Leonori is clearly a fan of Kirby and has gone to town in this kind of homage style. I mean, DC have tried this in their New 52 with OMAC and Infinity Man and the Forever People, where they've kind of tried to keep in the same vein but not as closely, and I think that's particularly why they failed. They should have gone all out and embraced the Kirby style, and I'm sure those books would have done much better, like Joe Casey did with Godland, also again over on Image. Clearly embraced Kirby's style right down to the crackle. And it just makes for a fantastic read, and no more so than here. We have what is essentially, and again, Sleepy Reader said just what I was thinking. It felt very much like a kind of adaptation of an Edgar Allan Poe story. There's this great kind of 3 or 4 pages right at the very beginning where it is just the kind of inner monologue of our main character, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce because It's a bit of a tongue twister. But this guy here right on the front, and it's very brooding, it's very dark, it's very gothic, which is what all this comic book is about, but matched with, you know, the Kirby colours and style. And I loved that in a monologue, and I just hoped that it was going to go all the way through this issue. It doesn't, but I'm not that disappointed. It just would have been nice. But it sets up the issue so well. I don't want to keep harking back to Kirby, but, you know, clearly he must have read a lot of Kirby stuff, because even right at the very beginning of this book, you get, you know, your first panel of pages, sorry. And then it goes straight into your double spread. A trick that Kirby did again and again in all of his issues. It was his style, and again, it works just as well here. It's full of crazy characters, kind of dueling monsters. There's this kind of supernatural book with a soul key that needs to be got. It's all very flashy, it's bright, it's bold, it's got that Kirby style and imagination, and I just loved it. It's my pick of the week. I'm doing it now, even though it was last week, because the rest of the books I'm going to talk about this week are a bit meh. They were good, but they weren't anywhere near this. So I'm glad I had this to read to kind of brighten up a kind of mediocre week. While it's called Night World, I hope, I know this is a full-part mini-series, but I hope that it does so well that Night World becomes a bit like Baltimore, where it has, you know, kind of like 4 or 5 issue storylines, and then it gives itself a break. They class them as mini-series, but they give themselves a break, and then they go back into the Baltimore. And you get another different story that you can jump into. And I would love Night World to be that kind of book, where we can maybe visit other characters in this kind of gothic supernatural setting. Awesome, fantastic, please go pick it up, support it. They could make more. Batman Eternal issue 19 this week, and this issue kind of confirmed to me that I can never say to anyone who has not started this series to just jump on now. I can't recommend that. Go, if you can't find the singles, wait for the trade to come out, because the eagle-eyed among you saw last week that there was no review for Batman Eternal issue 18. And there still isn't, because I still haven't got the issue. But it's only taken just the one issue for me to not know what the hell is going on. If you're on Batman Eternal, you're basically on Batman Eternal till the end, unless you're that bored of it you just drop it. You can't just drop it for a while hoping that it'll get better and come back to it in, like, say 4 or 5 issues time, because you will miss out on so much. Just one issue I've missed, and I did not like this comic at all, and it probably or might be quite good. But because I've missed last issues, I don't know how much of that bleeds into this, but I was very, very confused. The main crux, the main meat of this story is Batwoman, Red Hood and Batgirl. Batgirl has been hypnotised, I guess, by Dr. Falsario, and she now thinks that Batwoman and the Joker, no, sorry, Batwoman, I've spoilt it now, Batwoman and Red Hood are the Joker and James Gordon Jr. And so they start fighting, obviously, and kind of Red Hood takes on Batgirl while Batwoman runs off to take down Dr. Falsario. I presume this happened or started to happen in issue 18, that this didn't just suddenly appear here. So I was kind of like, what the hell is going on here? I'm confused. And the confusion continued because we also get some brief glimpses finally of Batman, unless he again was in issue 18, and he seems to have appeared to have teamed up with Killer Croc. Now, Killer Croc seems to be... I mean, I've had no frame of reference for Killer Croc apart from the Batwoman title when he was turned into that huge kind of Leviathan. But I always thought Killer Croc was kind of a pretty nasty character and certainly wouldn't be teaming up with Batman. But apparently something's happened. Maybe this is a newer iteration of Killer Croc. But they teamed up to save somebody in the sewers of Gotham, and there are all these crazy weird creatures. I think these are the ones that have escaped from Arkham Asylum when Deacon Blackfire let loose these demons, because apparently they can't go too far up to the surface because the light weakens them. Also in this issue we've got James Gordon in Blackgate. Again, did a lot of this happen in 18? There seems to have been some sort of blackout. Carmine Falcone and the Penguin have been warring with each other within the prison facility. A little bit of tit for tat. You kill one of my guys, I'm going to kill one of yours. And it all seems to be, you know, coming again to a head between the two. And it's James Gordon who seems to be, you know, leading the prison officers in kind of trying to quell this riot that has begun. Wasn't a great fan of the art style in here. Some of it, like when they showed like the Joker's face, the artwork and was all a bit scratchy. When they were in the sewers with Lieutenant Bard, which again, they have to name him Lieutenant Bard just so we know who he is, because so many artists have drawn him in so many different ways that he always has to be mentioned by name. That artwork didn't appeal to me, and then there was this much more cleaner style, and the two clashed, didn't make for a very good read for me, but I think I may have liked it a little bit better if I'd read 18. Now, with Batman issue 34, the likelihood of this being a great issue was in doubt. Let's be honest, we've just come out of a year-long event with Zero Year, Scott Snyder's kind of tweaking, retelling, adding to the Bat origin mythology. So, and with big events like that, when you go into the next story, it is always like, well, was that actually any good? It suffers from following a big, huge event. And in some respects, it happens again here. I'm kind of done in one story, but there are kind of little bits in there that are clearly going to be picked up later on in the Bat series, I am sure. We have a killer on the loose who is killing off one by one Dr. Tompkins' patients. And he's a nobody. He's not one of Batman's rogue of villains, and he basically really wants to stay that way. He wants to be under the radar, but obviously Batman, as you've seen here, sees everything. He is not just about all the big characters, the big band of rogues. He's also obviously keeping the streets clean of the lowlifes, the people that you may not notice get through the cracks. The story was okay. There were some kind of rather dark moments, especially when you find out the motive of this guy who calls himself the Meek. And when I say the motive, that's just it. There is no motive, but it's not in a kind of chaotic way like the Joker is. It's more, this guy is really just feeding an appetite he has within him to murder. That is his only motive. He doesn't want to be known for it. He doesn't want to make a big name for himself. He certainly obviously doesn't want to be seen, and clearly this is why he picks off these kind of these doctors' patients, these, you know, normal Joes, and tries not to draw attention to himself. And we see that this has been going on for a lot longer than Batman knows. It has a kind of crime noir feel about it, and I think that's very much down to Matteo Scalera's art, which at first when I read it, I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed. I didn't think this was the Matteo Scalera I'd seen on Black Science. And I get that, you know, Black Science is this over-the-top, almost kind of very hugely cinematic sci-fi adventure. And what we have here is a very muted crime noir story that really, I'm surprised this made it into Batman. This felt much more like a Detective Comics, Batman Detective Comics issue than it did kind of Scott Snyder's run on Batman. So it was surprising in that way to see it here as well. But Scalera manages to still give us that kind of cinematic scope that he's done in other titles, but with a much more muted palette of colours, using a lot more kind of dirty pastel-y type kind of colour palette. And I had to look at it again to go, well, actually this isn't as bad as I first thought, and I have to obviously take into consideration it's not Black Science. An okay issue for me. Next issue is going to be another kind of break, because we're doing that 5 years in the future, the end of Future's End or whatever that is. And then apparently we're going to have another kind of big epic story from Scott Snyder, which is apparently going to be incredibly crazy, and we're not going to see it coming. Astro City issue 14 by Kurt Busiek. That came out from Vertigo this week. I read it. I was a little bit disappointed. Not saying it's a bad issue by any means. It was just a little obvious. What we have is a story about Ellie. The story's called Ellie's Friends. Now, Ellie's friends are actually robots that have been used to battle against Astro City's superheroes. She kind of salvages them, gives them some sort of love and attention, and and kind of makes them into good robots. And she has this museum out in the middle of nowhere, which is kind of a little bit of a tourist trap for travelling families. It's her life, and she's happy that it's just slow and quiet, and she occasionally gets visitors who appreciate what she's done. And then Fred turns up, who's her nephew. He's one of these kind of down on his luck, keeps losing jobs, etc. He's not the greatest of people to know and to want to know. And as soon as he turned up, you kind of felt, you just know where this is going to go. He's in severe need of cash. He needs to stay with his aunt for a while to kind of lie low, get himself sorted out. And you just can see where the story's going to go. He's going to take over the museum. He's going to use the robots for less than innocent means. And unfortunately, at the end of this, it's a two-part story by the looks of it. Ellie is framed for Fred's bad doings. It was a pretty story. It was a quaint story. It was, again, those moments where Astro City has always been. It's never about the superheroes. It's always about kind of us little people who are involved in their lives and how they participate in a world that is populated by superheroes. So this issue, a little bit disappointed. Now I'm going to leave you with Shutter issue 5 from Image. The craziness has calmed down. The story is now kind of focusing on a story. We kick off this issue 10 years ago, the day that Kate's father died, and we find out how he died, by who, and there are some big, like it was promised, revelations in this, and it makes upcoming issues that much more interesting for me now. Whether the craziness starts again or not, this issue alone kind of makes this this title a lot more interesting. We have 10 years ago, Kate's father is battling a monk and kind of some weird kind of astral angel with, you know, a big mouth and lots of teeth attacking him with tentacles. And Kate's coming in to save the day. And interspersed between all this is Kate trying to, I guess, bond with her newly found brother. And everything seems to be going very well until she finds out how old he is. 8 3/4. Something isn't right here, and Kate realises it, abducts her brother and kind of runs away in the car with her brother in tow. It comes like with a big cliffhanger ending here when you realise who killed her father. It just made the book that much more interesting. Like I said, now all that crazy, imaginative, frenetic, fast-paced craziness that the kind of like the first 2 or 3 issues had, we're getting a good story now. I'm hooked. I want to know more, and I really want to read the next issue now, and that's not something I've really had with Shutter of late. Del Duca's artwork is very nice in here. It's that kind of got that painted style. All the characters are, you know, all very, you know, their facial expressions are all very different. They're very pronounced. We can see who is who. There's no mistaking. I really do like this title now. I've definitely got on board with it. Probably worth waiting for the trade if you haven't started picking this up. As I say with most stuff, and I'm honest with you, don't let the madness of the first few issues put you off. You will eventually get to a great, good story. That's it for another week of comics. Well, my comics anyway. Let me know what you were getting this week and what you thought of your books. If you don't make the videos, let me know anyway down in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching, taking part. Monday's question of the week video is still open. You can answer my question, ask me a question, and you'll get it answered in Monday's video. If you like what you heard now and you're not subscribed to me yet, give me a thumbs up, a subscribe, comment to let me know this is your first time watching me, all that good stuff, and I will see you maybe sooner than you think.